Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It is Friday, the 1st of August. I'm Nadine Blaney. Well, after an early positive start, with markets up as much as 1.5% on Wall Street, the enthusiasm faded, and that means the local market is expected to drop about 64 points at the open. The Dow fell 330 points, the S&P 500 lost about 0.4%. The Nasdaq was relatively flat, losing just about 7 points. Apple and Amazon results after the bell were eagerly anticipated, particularly after Microsoft shares rallied on AI enthusiasm. It briefly surpassed the $4 trillion mark, following in Nvidia's footsteps. After the bell, Apple crushed Wall Street expectations, with iPhone sales staging a comeback, rising 13.5% and beating expectations. CEO Tim Cook put the jump down to a pre-tariff sales jump. Tariffs, he said, have cost Apple $800 million in the June quarter and may add more than $1.1 billion in costs to the current quarter. Apple reported $94 billion in revenue for the fiscal third quarter, up nearly 10% from a year earlier and beating analyst expectations. Shares rose in after-hours trade. But Amazon shares dropped more than 3% in after hours, despite forecasting third quarter sales above market estimates. Its cloud computing results lagged big gains that we saw from Alphabet and Microsoft. AWS profit margins also contracted. Amazon expects total net sales to be between $174 and $179.5 billion in the third quarter. The retail arm posted online store sales of $61.5 billion, an 11% gain. And after its results the previous session, Meta surged to $773.80. That's a record high close. AI-driven ad growth powered a bullish revenue forecast. With that being said, other AI-related names were weaker on the session. Nvidia and the chip index dropped more than 3% for its biggest decline since mid-April. But Figma had a blockbuster debut, rising 250%. It raised $1.2 billion at $33 per share, securing a valuation of about $19.3 billion. Economic data from the Commerce Department report showed inflation picked up in June, with new tariffs pushing prices higher and stoking expectation that price pressures could intensify in the coming months. On tariffs, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said a 35% tariff on all Canadian goods not covered by the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement is still surely on the cards, ahead of the August 1st deadline that's been imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump, meantime, gave Mexico a 90-day reprieve to negotiate a broader trade deal, but is expected to issue higher final duty rates for most other countries as the clock winds down to his Friday deadline. In other economic news, the U.S. jobless data increased just marginally last week, suggesting that the U.S. labor market remains stable. U.S. 10-year yields were little changed. Markets are pricing a 35% chance the Fed funds rate will be cut by 25 basis points at the next meeting on the 18th of September. The U.S. dollar is headed for its first monthly gain for 2025 against major currencies. The dollar rose against the yen and is on track to gain about 5% for July, making it the biggest monthly increase since December of 2024. Bitcoin is looking a bit weak, down by about 1%. On the commodities front, Brent crude oil futures fell by 1% to 73 US per barrel. Gold, though, rose 0.5%. Copper fell close to 21%, following the refined metals exemption from US tariffs. Iron ore fell 1.8% to $98. Today, the Catality Home Value Index is headed for another solid result. We get Q2 PPI results here locally as well. And on the corporate front, we'll be watching for reaction to ResMed earnings, which were out overnight, beat the street on strong demand for its sleep apnea devices. That does it for the day ahead. I'm Nadine Blaney. We'll see you tomorrow.